On this day in history, Iran embarked on a path of modernization and national revival. On February 21, 1921, 3rd of Isfand 1299, Reza Shah the Great took bold and decisive action to rescue Iran from the corrupt, stagnant and tribal rule of the Qajar dynasty. Far from being passive, he actively reshaped the nation's trajectory for generations to come, relying on strength, determination, and unwavering patriotism. His leadership set Iran on a course toward progress, national unity, and institutional development. This pivotal moment in Iranian history serves as a reminder of the nation's resilience and its ability to rise from adversity. Today, as we witness Iran suffering under the tyranny of the Islamic Republic, the legacy of Reza Shah's reforms highlights the stark contrast between a nation advancing toward modernity and one held hostage by an oppressive regime. May this day serve as an inspiration for all patriotic Iranians striving for a free, prosperous, and sovereign Iran. Long live the Shah! The Iranian Americans for Liberty calls on all media platforms, including Persian-speaking online and TV services, to disclose their sources for the spurious reports that Masih Alinejad were invited to Munich Security Conference event this year. In the interest of transparency and in order to retain the public's trust, Iranians demand the release of the sources of reports, including public statements by Munich Security Conference and German government officials claiming Ms. Alinejad was invited to Munich Security Conference this year. This was confirmed to be a lie by crowdsourced efforts of Iranians in the diaspora, verifying the venue Ms. Alinejad appeared at to be a free event funded by IRI. The cause of freedom is incompatible with lies and secrecy. These media outlets have either relinquished their duty to vet their sources or willfully misled the public. The Iranian Americans for Liberty calls upon all Iranians to join us in demanding accountability from these outlets. Thursday, February 20th marks the second consecutive day of protests in Sangsar Mehdi Shahr, Semnan province, following the gruesome murder of Maziar Turanian committed by several Afghan refugees. The incident has sparked public outrage, leading to demonstrations in the city as tensions rise over security concerns and migrant-related issues. From the start of this year, more than 2,000 citizens in Mazandaran province have been summoned, either by phone or in person, by the intelligence organization of the IRGC. According to the commander of the Mazandaran IRGC, these summonses were issued under the pretext of invitation and guidance, primarily targeting individuals active in security-related fields. This practice is part of the IRGC's surveillance and control policies, through which individuals labeled as offenders are called in for interrogation or so-called guidance via phone calls or in-person meetings. Such measures are often used to increase pressure on civil and political activists, and in many cases involve threats and additional restrictions. In violation of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, 10,000 students were sent to military zones. Despite the Islamic Republic's international commitment under the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which prohibits the use of children in military activities, 10,000 students from Bushehr province have been sent to so-called Rahiyan-e-Nur excursions in operational war zones. According to the Deputy for Educational and Cultural Affairs of the Bushehr Department of Education, these students were deployed to former battlefields in organized convoys. The Convention on the Rights of the Child, which Iran joined in 1994, defines individuals under 18 years old as children and explicitly forbids their involvement in military affairs. However, Iran has repeatedly violated its obligations in areas such as child labor, judicial punishments, underage marriage, and military training. Human rights organizations argue that these trips, which involve visits to war zones, exposure to violent imagery, and ideological indoctrination, constitute the instrumentalization of children for militaristic objectives. Additionally, concerns over the safety of these excursions have been raised as past incidents such as bus accidents have posed serious threats to students' lives and well-being. Asghar Sepehri, the brother of Fatemeh Sepehri, a monarchist political prisoner, has reported on X about her deteriorating health and the harsh prison conditions she is enduring. According to him, Fatemeh Sepehri has recently experienced blurred vision, extreme weakness, and excessive sweating. He wrote, "It is unclear whether these symptoms are related to a heart condition or another illness, but failure to provide immediate medical attention could put her life at risk." On January 8th, she was taken to a surgeon outside the prison for a checkup. After an injection in her shoulder, the specialist prescribed 10 physical therapy sessions within a week, followed by re-examination a month later. However, despite a month-long delay, she was only transferred to Emdadi Hospital in Mashhad on February 6th, where doctors once again emphasized the need for her follow-up treatment. To date, neither the prescribed physical therapy nor the follow-up visit to the specialist has taken place. Asghar Sepehri has called for immediate intervention, a thorough health examination, and the full execution of the prescribed treatments to ensure his sister's well-being. Gilare Abbasi, a civil and political activist advocating for the monarchy, was arrested in Tehran on Wednesday, February 1st by agents of the Islamic Republic's Ministry of Intelligence and transferred to Evin prison. Intelligence officers raided her home, arrested her, and confiscated her electronic devices and mobile phone. Reports indicate that her teenage daughter has been left alone at home without a guardian following her detention. Abbasi's arrest is repeatedly linked to her efforts to sell handmade crafts created by prisoners to help them earn a living. She has a heart condition and had previously been sentenced to 2 years and 6 months in prison by Branch 26 of Tehran's Revolutionary Court on charges of assembly and collusion. After serving several months behind bars, she was released from Evin prison in January 2023. Majid Khoshmanzar, political prisoner, released on furlough after 855 days in prison and with only 2 months remaining on his sentence. Majid Khoshmanzar was granted furlough, leading to his release from Vakilabad prison in Mashhad. Mr. Khoshmanzar, a senior traffic control officer in Mashhad, was arrested on the 26th of October 2022 during Iran's nationwide uprising by agents of the Ministry of Intelligence and subsequently transferred to prison. He was later sentenced by Branch 1 of the Mashhad Revolutionary Court, presided over by Judge Momeni and Hossein Yazdan Kha, to 10 years in prison and 1 year of exile in Taybad on charges of Muharebe, waging war against God. This sentence was upheld by the Khorasan Razavi Court of Appeals. The destruction of CCTV cameras was cited as one of the main accusations against him. Following a pardon recommendation by the Amnesty Commission, Judge Hossein Imam Verdi of Branch 1 of the Khorasan Razavi Criminal Court reduced his sentence to 30 months in prison. Ali Sharifzadeh Ardekani, a defense attorney, revealed on his X, formerly Twitter account that his client Reza Mohammad Hosseini reported being beaten in solitary confinement at Qazl Hisar prison. According to Sharifzadeh Ardekani, Mohammad Hosseini, a monarchist political prisoner, had been held in solitary confinement for 10 days. He was finally returned to the general ward on February 18, 2025 after enduring both isolation and a hunger strike. Expressing frustration, the attorney wrote, "Why is a prisoner already isolated from society and family treated this way? How much longer must we witness such inhumane behavior?" Earlier reports had indicated that Mr. Mohammad Hosseini began his hunger strike in protest of the suspension of his phone calls and his transfer to solitary confinement. Reza Mohammad Hosseini was arrested in April 2019 by security forces. The Islamic Republic's judiciary later sentenced him to 7 years in prison on political charges, including assembly inclusion against national security, insulting the supreme leader, illegal exit from the country, unauthorized re-entry into Iran, disobedience to law enforcement officers. Residents in Zabul staged a protest in front of the city's electricity department to voice their anger over frequent and prolonged power outages, which have severely disrupted their daily lives. Protesters also demanded accountability from authorities for the financial losses and damages caused by these blackouts, affecting household appliances, businesses, and essential services. Many of them carried signs and chanted slogans calling for immediate action to address the ongoing crisis. The poultry farmers from Markazi province gathered in front of the governor's office to protest the government's failure to address their demands. The farmers have been struggling with rising production costs, shortages of essential supplies like feed and medicine, and unfair pricing policies that have severely impacted their livelihoods. They argued that government mismanagement, lack of support, and market instability have left them unable to sustain their businesses. Despite repeated appeals to authorities, their demands for fair pricing, financial assistance, and proper regulation of the poultry market remain ignored. A group of homebuyers from Isar Garan housing project in Brazjan, Bushehr staged a protest to express their frustration and dissatisfaction over the long-delayed delivery of their homes. The protesters, who have been waiting for years, criticized the authorities for broken promises, lack of transparency, and failure to fulfill their commitments. They demanded immediate action to resolve the delays and financial hardship caused by the unmet housing agreements. Nurses in Zanjan gathered in front of the provincial governor's office to protest against unpaid wages and the authorities' failure to address their concerns. Many of these healthcare workers have been waiting months for their overdue salaries and benefits, despite their critical role in the healthcare system. The protesters expressed frustration over the government's negligence and the deteriorating working conditions in hospitals. They emphasized that chronic understaffing, delayed payments, and a lack of job security have made it increasingly difficult for them to continue providing proper patient care. Furthermore, nurses at Beheshti Hospital in Kashan staged a protest against low overtime wages, inadequate salaries, unfair benefits, and delayed payments. The demonstrators voiced their frustration over the financial difficulties they face due to the hospital's failure to meet their demands. They called on officials to take immediate action to improve their working conditions and ensure fair compensation for their services. On Saturday, February 22nd, a group of oil sector employees hired in 2014 gathered in southern Iran's oil-rich regions to protest economic hardships and unfair wages. The demonstrators voiced frustration over the widening gap between their salaries and the increasing cost of living, as well as the lack of proper compensation for their specialized skills and heavy workloads. The protesters also criticized unfulfilled promises by authorities regarding wage adjustments and improved benefits. Many workers in the sector have long complained about difficult working conditions, lack of job security, and inadequate financial support, particularly as inflation and economic instability continue to impact their livelihoods. A group of contract workers from Fajr Jam gas refinery staged a protest demanding employment status conversion, increased benefits, and fair wages. The workers emphasized the disparity in salaries and benefits between contract employees and permanent staff, calling for equal treatment and job security. They stressed that despite their years of service, they continue to face uncertainty and financial strain, urging the authorities to address their demands immediately. A group of retirees and pensioners from the telecommunications company staged protests in multiple cities, including Tehran, Sanandaj, Gilan, Isfahan, Elam, Kermanshah, East Azerbaijan, and Bijar. The demonstrators voiced their frustration over economic hardships and called for the equalization of pensions, demanding that their salaries be adjusted in line with inflation and the rising cost of living. Protesters emphasized that they have been neglected by authorities despite years of service and insist on immediate action to address their financial struggles.